Now, we had mentioned impurities or purification a little bit earlier. And Matteo, I'm curious from you, what impurity classes are difficult to monitor as we move to commercial scale GLP-1 manufacturing?
Well, one of the, as I mentioned before, the new focus on the specifically for synthetic molecule, not for recombinant, the new focus on nitrosamine derived from the fragment condensation should be is very difficult in the sense that the level at which they have to be controlled is very, very low. We're talking about ppms, and the same for the genotoxic impurity. So this is a new focus. The other thing is, as I said, the aggregates are to analyze all of this impurity. Very often you need different modifier in your analytical system. And some of these modifier, they're not MS compatible. So one other thing that I think is coming is a more routine use of what is called 2D LCMS, where you have a first or the first direction of your analytical that allow you to separate very well the impurity, but maybe not individually separate the impurity. And the second dimension of the LC is used now to separate one peak in the two component. And so you can now quantify different impurity under that one peak of impurity. And if you add the MS at the end, you also have the ability to not only see that there are two peaks, but only confirm the identity of these two peaks that you are detecting. So I think the 2D LC MS is one of the things that in the future will be a more powerful tool to simplify, in one sense, the method development required to
Mhm.
analyze GLP-1 product.
And what role do you see LCMS playing in release testing?
Uh, Personally, I never believe that. So there are two reasons why you could use LCMS. One is to identify all the impurity, and the second
Mhm,
one is to identify co-eluting impurity with the product.
mhm,
Um, Personally, I do not believe that LCMS to identify co-eluting impurity is the right way to go into release product, although LCMS allow you to do to to prove that you have only one product under the peak when we're talking
mm.
about product with this different mass intensity. So I think LCMS is very good tool while you're developing the method, but is very difficult tool to apply to the release of material. So I
Mm.
think you need to invest a lot in LCMS during method development, not as much as in the release. On the other hand, if you want to have the certitude that you have all the impurity are exactly what you expect them to be, because you can have a situation where you have a peak at a certain retention time that you think is a certain impurity, and then you have a new impurity that elutes there and you did not expect it. So LCMS as a way to characterize the identity of the small impurity in your process could be a very powerful tool.
Leo, earlier you mentioned NIR spectrophotometry, and I'm curious if you can elaborate a little bit on how that improves the efficiency of process verification and analytics.
Actually, we use mainly in our where we have, not so continuous process, and we need a kind of, for instance, calculate the concentration before we load the columns to have a better efficiency and also extend the lifetime of the resins. For instance, we use a lot of this method where we we call at line because it's not yet completely in line. We don't have real data. We still need to take samples, but the decision is very fast in our process. Yeah, this is one of the technologies that we have implemented lately. I would say the last 5 years in a lot of our products.
Mm,
Matea?
yeah, in my opinion, risk analysis should be used as a companion to process development. When you develop a process, there is a moment where you have finished a development of how you're going to do it, and you have a canvas that defines how you're going to make your product. And in my opinion, you use FMEA or similar technology at that point to try to see all the possible risks that you have identified, that you can identify. And then you look at your control strategy to verify, do I have all the control that I need to eliminate this risk? And so all goes down to define what are the control strategy for your risk. For example, a silly thing, not silly, but I can have a deletion at every moment in my synthesis. So I may have 30 amino acid, I can have 30 impurity. Do I have a way to monitor in process during the purification of my product that all of these 30 impurity are detectable? And so you have to verify that your methods are able to control you there. Now, once you do this control strategy, this FMEA that drive how you select your control strategy, then you eventually put them in place and make a process and execute the process at a certain scale to verify that your control strategy does actually do what it's supposed to do. And you define if everything seems correct. And as you do this, you probably have developed a lot of new analytical method because you need a new control strategy. So when you arrive at the end of your development and you get ready to go for what is called the validation of the process, now you verify that you have all the correct, that your risk that you have identified as high score in the first FMEA has all been reduced to further. Now, you may find thousands of risks during FMEA. So you have a way to rank them. And normally what you do is you go through the first 200 risks, and then you go to the one that you finish this process of, yes, I have solved my first 200 risks. Now let's take a look at the residual 800. Is there something that I can still solve? This is one thing. So you do this by risk scoring your risk. So the one that were high, obviously, now you took them down, the new score will be lower. And you look now at what are the new highest score, and you see if they're really critical for the process or not, and you make a judgment, because you cannot eliminate all the risks because the risks are almost infinite, but you want to eliminate everything that is above a certain level. You have done this, you go into validation and you execute the validation, and at the end of the validation, you use again your FMEA to verify that during the validation, all the critical process parameter and everything has behaved like you had expected from your FMEA, initial FMEA. And so FMEA and risk analysis is a tool that you use to assure that your quality by design has been executed properly. And then I imagine that when you have this tool in your hand, and as you produce, like probably Novo does, every time that you want to modify something, you go back to your document and see, well, is that modification impacting all the other parameters? So the beauty of having a very well executed FMEA is that you have a living tool that you can consult, that you can verify, and not only verify, but if you have a deviation in the process, you can also use to identify if that deviation was considered something that can impact. So this, if you spend the money and the time and you have the right people to do a good quality design with a good FMEA, you are most likely will save a couple of lot during the life cycle of your product for a multi-million-dollar return on investment. And I think it's worth doing it, and it's worth finding the people who knows how to run this thing, because it's not simple to do it at the level of complexity that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And I know, Leo, you have a quality by design process. I'm curious from you, how do you ensure continuous improvement? As Matteo said, when things pop up, how do you ensure that you have an environment of continuous improvement? Whose job is it?
Yeah, it's exactly what Matthew said. So, right, it's a living document or a living tool that you keep the feedback loop, because of course the when you have the lab scale and you bring to industrial scale, and now we are talking, very huge facility and so on. And of course, you need to do some adjustments, some changes. And these, of course, we have very specialized people. But as I used to say, this also comes, with the new ideas from everybody. Actually, here is everybody's responsibility. Due to that, we invest a lot in developing our people, and also to take all the blame culture out of the shop floor,
Hmm.
because they are the ones really executing the process, so they know every day challenge, and they will bring new ideas how to make sure that their lives will be easier. And this for us is very important, because if you have a very simple process, as we say, taking out the complexity for them is easier to execute every time in the same way. So this is what we invest a lot in several different tools like FMA, I said, but when we have a problem to solve, we use A trees, for instance, and problem solving tools to make sure that, there's, as I used to say, there's no problem to have a problem. The problem is the way that you react to the problem. So let's learn from our mistakes and make sure that we have this feedback system, that we are going to put our pokayokis in place to make sure that we are not going to make the same mistake again. So in this way, also we reduce variability in our process, and we have a better product, better yields, better quality, and more important than everything, happier employees that they are very engaged and execute the process every time and bring new ideas. This continuous improvement is a responsibility of everybody. That's the way that we
Hmm.
create a good, what we call Kaizen culture.
You're only as successful as the people who work there, right?
Exactly.
um, I'd love to focus on batch release, and release timelines for a bit, because I know we have had a few questions on that, and both of you have expertise there. But Matteo, how do you use AI and advanced analytics to reduce release timelines?
Well, if you think about the way the analysis nowadays um, works, normally works, there is probably a 6 hour or 8 hour of analytical run with the standard and everything, for example, for mass, for purity. But then you have the verification of all the injection, the parameter, and so you need an operator to spend another maybe 4 to 6 hours to close this run to verify everything is correct. So AI most likely is able to do the same work in 5 minutes. To be
Hmm.
so by using AI su- to support the process of reviewing the data and verifying the property execution of the method and everything, it will be a very good approach. And now or you're left, and so you're like, well, I eliminate totally my operator. And I think people misunderstand the AI. The AI are there to highlight to a person that they detected a variability in the process or something unexpected, and then would be the analyst to make some decision. To what level do I escalate this? Do I suggest rerunning? So the human mind will be still the one that has to intervene on the result of the AI.